So let's start. Today I am going to talk about a photograph. The poem, it is a poem, okay? First of point, it is a poem. And a photograph is written by Charlie Townsend. Written by Charlie Townsend. Written by Charlie Townsend. Charlie Townsend. Okay, it's written by Charlie Townsend. In this poem, she recalls her mother and her memories. So what about this poem? It is a poem of recall. It is a poem of recall. Okay, it is a poem. It is written by Charlotte Townsend. It is a poem of recall. In this poem, she recalls her mother and her memories while looking at a childhood photograph when her mother was 12 years old, when she has been deceased 12 years ago, and she cannot explain her grief on her mother's loss. Okay. So, if I talk about the summary, okay. Now let's talk about the summary. Okay. So let's talk about the summary. If I talk about the summary, SUMMARY. Let's talk about the summary. The poem is a tribute. It is a tribute. First point, it is a tribute. It is a tribute. Tribute to the poet's mother. The poet's mother. It is tribute to the poet's mother. She is looking at an old photograph of her mother, which has a framed of cardboard. The picture has three girls in which, so it is about a picture, a photograph where there is a picture. Okay, there is a picture. It is a picture of 3%. It is the picture has three girls in which the middle one is the oldest and tallest. So the middle one is the oldest and tallest. Okay, oldest and tallest. It is her mother. So it is our writer's mother. It is our writer's mothers. Okay. It is a writer's mothers. It is a writer's mother. It is her mother who was 12 years old. So it is in this picture his mother was 12 years old. The author's mother was 12 years old. Both and her two cousins, Betty and Dolly. The name of the cousins is Betty and Dolly. Betty and Dolly. Who are holding her hands. Okay. Who are holding her hands. And are younger than her. They went for paddling on a beach. So they went for a beach. Okay, beach means sea. They went for that was when they got holidays. During the holidays. Holding their hands are younger than her. They went to the paddling on a beach holiday. Her uncle took the photograph. Then the poet could not help but notice her mother's sweet face. The sea touched her terribly transient feet, which depicted that she changed over the years. The sea remained the same. Okay. And after 20-30 years, her mother would laugh at the photograph. So it was when she was 12 years old, and that the times come, and after that it's not opening, guys. अब हम कविता को पढ़ेंगे, ठीक है। देखो पोएम में क्या है। द कार्डबोर्ड शोज मी हाउ इट वॉज। द कार्डबोर्ड शोज मी हाउ इट वॉज। Oh God. The cardboard shows me how it was. Here the cardboard means the frame, okay, the frame of that or the picture, okay. The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she, the big girl, some 12 years so. In these lines, the poet is looking at an old photo album which is made of cardboard. In the picture, there are three girls holding each other's hands. The girl in the middle is the tallest and the oldest. The other two girls on each side are younger than her. The girl in the middle is the poet's mother. She is around 12 years old when the picture was taken. Okay. Okay, the cardboard shows me how it was. The cardboard shows me how it was. So the poet is looking at an old photo album. Is looking at an old photograph. Okay. When the two girl cousins went paddling. So in the photograph, there are three girls. They waiting for paddling. Paddling, okay. Paddling means walking on the beach. She, the big girl. So the middle one is the biggest and the oldest. Some 12 years or so, and her age that time was some 12 years old. And the big or tall girl, tallest and oldest girl, was the author's mother. And in the photograph, there are three, the 12-year-old girls and her two cousins, each are holding each other's hands. Okay, now come to the next line. All three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera, a sweet face, my mother's that was before I was born, and the sea which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. In the above lines, the poet describes how the photograph was taken. Her mother's uncle took, so in the above lines, the poet describes how the photograph was taken. Her mother's uncle took the photograph and told them to stop and pose. All three of them left their wet hair open and smiled at the camera. The poet's attention is drawn towards his mother's face, which is described as a sweet face. The photograph was taken long before the poet was born. The poet calls their feet terrible transient, as they were so young by then and now they had grown older. On the other hand, the sea which touched their feet has changed less. So look at these lines. All three stood still to smile through their hair. Why stood still? Because their uncle, that author's mother's uncle, was told them he told them to stand still and to smile because he wanted to take a picture of them. So that's why all three stood still to smile through their hair. Through their hair means their hair opened. By kept their hair opened. At the uncle with the camera. And that, okay, I already told you, a sweet face, my mother's. The author is again talking about her mother's beauty. A sweet face. So that time her mother was young, and our poet is very much thinking about of her mother. So here the sweet face, her mother's, he is calling her mother's face sweet face. That was before I was born. So this image was captured a long time ago. That was before I was born. When Charlotte Dawson born, that picture was captured before her birth. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terrible transient feet. So sea means sea here is very beautiful imagery that Charlotte Dawson used. The sea is something that is very powerful, okay, that cannot be changed, which appears to have changed less. But their terrible transient feet. Here the terrible transient feet means that children were very young, they were child, so their feet was transient. So they were very young and now they are changed, they have old. Okay, this is one meaning. And another meaning is that they when they were walking by the side of the beach, they kept their footprint marks, but that sea with its tide came and washed away those footprint marks. So this is that imagery. Now next come the next stanza. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See, Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. The sea holiday was her spur, mine is her laughter. Both lie with the labor is applause. After 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the photograph. After 20-30 years, she would laugh at the photograph. She would tell me to look at her cousins, Betty and Dolly, and how their parents would dress all three of them up for the beach. They would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. After 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the photograph. After 20-30, she would laugh at the photograph. She would tell me to look at her cousin Betty and Dolly and how their parents would dress all three of them up for the beach. They would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. After 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the photograph. She would tell me to look at her cousins Betty and Dolly and how their parents would dress all three of them put up for which they would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. So, some 23 years later, when Charlotte Dawson has born and has grown up, she would laugh at the snapshot when her mother would see at the photograph. She would recall her child days, and that's why she would laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly. She told her daughter that to look at the Betty and Dolly. She would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. Look how their parents has dressed them, all three of them, for the beach. The sea holiday was her past, mine is her laughter. So her mother, that our author's mother was recalling her past and was feeling happy, And that's our author is recalling her mother when her mother was seeing that image and was laughing. So here we have got a multiple layers, 2 or 3 layers. Both wry with the levered ease of loss. So both wry means both are sorrow, both are wry. It is an irony, wry something like irony, that with a levered ease of loss. With a levered ease of loss. Levered ease of loss. Levered something very struggle. Ease of loss means something simple. So that's mean when her mother was recalling her past life, so she was happy to recall. At the same time, it was a great pain for her that those days will not come back again. So that is labored ease of loss. The poet recalls the sea holiday was her mother's favorite moment from the past, while the poet's favorite moment from the past was her mother's daughter. Both the women would think about those past memories which they cannot live again. They tried their best to adjust to what they lost. Now she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived. And of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. In the above lines, the poet says that her mother died 12 years ago. The times years ago, the same age her mother was in the photograph. Whenever the poet thinks of her mother's death, she cannot explain what effects she has of her mother's death. Death has silenced her mother, which has also left her speechless. Okay? So it was the poem. Now let's do the MCQ. So here I have questions like, what was the last phase in the poem? What was the last phase in the poem? Option A, after her mother died, after she grown up, after her mother grown up, none of the above. After her mother died. Question 2. What epithet relative is used in the poem? Terribly transient. What epithet? Okay. Terribly transient. Through there, both wry, labored is. Epithet. What is epithet? I think terribly transient. The answer is terribly transient. What is the meaning? Epithet means like that's for epithet. Okay, so it's like epithet. What is the meaning of the word wry? Wry means ironic. What was the favorite memory of the poet? Her mother's memories, her mother's laughter, her own vacation memories, her childhood memories. her mother's laughter. After how many years did her mother laugh on seeing 2030? Who looked the photograph of her mother with her cousins? Who took the photograph of her mother with cousins? Her uncle. Who are on both sides of her mother? Cousins Betty and Dolly. How many people were in the photograph? Correct option is 3. What was the age of poet's mother when the photograph was taken? What was the age of poet's mother when the photograph was taken? 12 years. Who is the poetess of the poem A Photograph? Shirley Dawson. So this was MCQ. Now let's look about another section.